Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sandy Brecker from Commuter Services in the Montgomery County Department of Transportation, and we're happy that you can join us this afternoon for this webinar on telework. It's a topic that I know is top of mind for many people these days. There have been so many negative impacts from COVID-19, but at least there have been a few silver linings. And one has been that it has presented us with a great opportunity to test telework, to find out what works and what doesn't. And we're still learning, of course, many of us. Many organizations, though, have found that telework works better and their employees work better using telework than they had thought or had feared in some cases. While it's too soon to know just how much telework is going to stick around permanently, or whatever permanent means these days, but there are indications that we will, going forward, be using telework, many organizations, a lot more than before. There are some interesting data points available in a study that was recently done by the Greater Washington Partnership that we can put a link in the chat to. But basically, they did a snapshot of a point in time, the end of 2020, November, December, and they surveyed nearly 200 employers in the Baltimore, Washington, Richmond corridor with over 130,000 employees represented at those employers. And a few things came out of that I thought were really noteworthy, just as a sort of a background to the discussion we're going to be having. First of all, they said in terms of returning to work fully, they found that vaccine availability and employees' concerns about personal health concerns were the biggest factors in decisions that employers were making about returning to their work sites. Over 50%, 50 to 60%, depending on which category you look at, of employers were indicating that those were the two main factors. Those were higher than either state or local mandates, opening of schools and childcare availability, rates of infections, or even decisions by their peer organizations. The impact that COVID has had on telework currently and projected to the future is quite significant. The Greater Washington Partnership study found, with regard to employer plans among these more than 170 employers, that during COVID, 8% of them said that they had employees who were working just 1 to 2 days a week teleworking, and 58% said they had employees working teleworking full time. But post-COVID, their expectations were that they would expect 56% of employees to telework 1 to 2 days a week, and only 1% to telework full time. And somewhere in between, somewhere 13 to 15%, maybe 3 to 4 days a week. So it was kind of a converse of what we're experiencing today, but still a very significant level of telework. So while we do have these opportunities still as we're in this transition period, and hopefully we will be moving past COVID as quickly as possible. But while we're understanding that we might be doing this for a much longer period of time than maybe we initially had anticipated, and permanently in some way, it's a good time to consider investing perhaps in some better arrangements. Equipment, obviously, for people, for employees and employers in terms of their telework capabilities, but also investing in our skills and our management techniques for handling telework. And so that's why we're here today, to benefit from someone who's quite experienced in working with employers throughout the nation, Elham Shirazi. And also to have a discussion, to answer your questions, issues that have arisen in your organizations. And then one other element that we are going to be covering today is that as we return to work, we do not want to have all of our employees return to driving, and driving alone in particular, and not benefit from the lessons that we've learned from the past, but rather, as people are returning to work, whether it's 1 or 2 days a week or full-time weeks, to have them consider all options instead of driving alone. And use of transit is gradually returning. We have a lot of safety and security protocols in place many of which will probably remain as we move forward in terms of sanitization and other issues. And so we want to encourage employers who are joining us today to consider programs that will encourage their employees not to drive alone to work, but instead to use transit and other options. Transit and van pool are eligible under federal law for a huge amount of support from employers that is tax-free to the employer and the employee, as many of you know, and we'd be happy to fill you in further. So that's why we've added FareShare to today's agenda, because the county does have a very generous program to partner with employers to buy down the cost of transit for your employees, and we will be covering that as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our main presenter today, Elham Shirazi, who is an expert in telework, has worked with many businesses and organizations across the nation over 30 years of experience handling telework programs, including a number of Fortune 500 companies. And with that brief intro, Elham, take it away. Elham, I think you're mute.
We can't hear you. Elham, we can't hear you. Elham. We can't hear you.
Okay, I got it. Hello.
There we go.
Okay. Sorry about that. Can you see my screen?
We can
Or
see
not
you. Yes.
No,
Yes. Okay, great.
I can see you, but I can't see your PowerPoint
Okay, so
presentation.
you have to give me control, Michelle?
You should be able to share your screen.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do. And okay, let's see what's going on.
If you click on the share screen button at the bottom.
Yeah. I'm
The little arrow, yeah.
yes, I'm trying, but you still can't see my screen, huh? Michelle,
No.
can you just share the screen? No.
Oh, somebody says that something opened up on a separate screen.
See,
Yeah,
I have my screen open.
I don't.
A quadrant, a diagram.
You have to click share screen and activate it.
If not, Michelle has my my PowerPoint.
Okay.
So
Do it that way.
All right, but I got to pull it up. Everybody just be patient.
yes,
We'll
sorry
figure
about
this
that,
out.
but
This is one of the things we're trying to learn to be better at, as I was mentioning, our skill sets. Maybe while you're doing that, let me see here. Michelle, I will answer a question that came in already with regard to my mention of public transit. Someone is asking, isn't there more of a risk using public transit at this time due to the pandemic? Most of the public transit systems in our region have put into place extremely, what do I want to say, aggressive actions and protocols with regard to sanitization, much greater than probably people are encountering when they're going to the grocery or to the pharmacy, or even maybe walking outside with friends or things of that nature. We have social distancing parameters that are in place, protocols that are in place on our buses and our transit systems in general. There are also regular heavy-duty sanitization procedures with wipe downs of all touch surfaces and many other provisions. So yes, I suppose you could say there is something of a greater risk than if you're able to, completely isolate yourself. But the feeling is that public transit at this point is much safer than certainly it was at the very beginning of the pandemic. And we can talk a little bit further about that because I see Michelle has pulled up Elham's screen. So let's come back to that at the end.
hey, Michelle, could you pull up the screen or no?
Yes, it's up
I
now.
have it up.
Okay, great. I'm so sorry. I don't know why mine did not come up. Okay, so.
Can you see it, Elham?
I'm sorry.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just see. Is that,
I
yeah,
got,
okay. So what we want to do today is just go over some of the lessons that we've learned over the past almost a year, but maybe 11 months
whoops.
in terms of teleworking and what the results are showing us. So initially, a lot of companies were saying that January was going to be the new beginning, but it looks like it's going to be July or later. And from Ford to Microsoft, a lot of companies say that we're going to be probably starting, hopefully over the summer. And Google was one of the first to announce that its return to office date was going to be July 2021. And many others definitely jumped on, such as Uber, Slack, Airbnb, and to add to that, Microsoft, actually yesterday, Salesforce, Target, Ford Motor, and New York Times also said that they had postponed the beginning of coming back to the office. And I just wanted to quote this thing from Google, which says that we hope this will offer the flexibility that you need to balance work with taking care of yourselves and your loved ones over the next 12 months. So as you can see, a lot of companies actually we're hoping to open up in July, but it even looks like it might go further. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
We're on the next slide.
Okay, so Microsoft has a philosophy, which is that their guidance includes flexibility on worksite, excuse me, which means the physical space where you work, where it's home, the office, the center, or the, or whether or not it would be mobile. And there's flexibility on the work hours in terms of when the employees start the workday and when they end them, and also the work location, which means that for a lot of people, it might be a geographic location where they're working, but it may not be the same as what it was before. As we know, a lot of employees have moved out, and there's a lot of data about New York and California losing their workers because they've moved to where they're closer to home. Okay, so employees in general, and this is based on a Korn Ferry survey, are not worried like going back to work. Almost 72% of the respondents for this Korn Ferry survey said that they're not afraid of returning to the office, and they felt confident also that their colleagues would be following safe guidelines, such as wearing masks and social distancing. So a lot of the employees are feeling confident about this. And the majority say that they're more productive when working virtually. I apologize for my voice. I have already lost it, but for the second day of the week. And so productivity is higher, although there are distractions in the home place, such as a spouse and children. So in terms of attitudes for going back to work, this just displays the same, data that I was going over, that employees are not worried about going back to the workplace because they know that people are going to wear masks and they're going to be safe when they're going to go back to the workplace. And so that is not an issue. However, they say if the office is still closed, how likely is it that you'll go back? And as you can see, over 40% of the respondents said that they actually felt safe about going back. And in terms of asking about their colleagues and what they would do in terms of safety of the workplace, as you can see, again, close to 40% were very confident that their coworkers would be very good about maintaining the safety of the workplace. In terms of productivity, I think we've all heard a lot of data about how employees are more productive when they are working from home. And in fact, close to 60% of the employees thought that they were more productive at home as opposed to the office, where it was just a tad over 40%. And I mean, there are many reasons for this, because employees feel that they can work at their own pace and they don't have a lot of distractions like they do in the office. And you know, for all means, productivity out of COVID has not been an issue. Another survey that was done by Cisco shows that almost 9 out of 10 workers want more flexibility and autonomy over where they work. And this is not uncommon for a lot of other workplaces. So a few data from Cisco's 2020 report, which you know, says that 58% will work 8 or more days each month from home. So that's you know, and ends up being 2 days a week, probably. And so it might be 2 days a week from home, and then 3 from the workplace. And a lot of the meetings are going to be probably online, where people from home and people in the office are going to join. So almost 98% of the meetings will be a good mix of, you know, people from both locations. And 98% still cite frustrations with video meetings when working from home. I'm sure we've all had them. Sometimes it's a bandwidth issue, and you know, other times it might be just connectivity and others. But almost 80% of larger organizations think that they will increase work flexibility, and a good over 50% think that they're going to shrink offices. I'm sure that you've all heard about hoteling, which really comes down to you know, companies you know, not having as much space, but you know, having employees who come into the office share space. And some of the employees who've gone in are also citing frustrations with in-office experiences. And that is due to the fact that, I mean, first of all, there's social distancing in the office. And second, it's not the same as what it was before. Okay. Commuter Connections has done a lot of surveys in the Metro DC area. And almost 62% of work sites with a telework program policy and made changes to accommodate the pandemic. The good news is that in the Metro DC area, a lot of organizations had telework programs before. And so what they did is they eased the restrictions on who could be part of the program. And in fact, for this time period, a lot of employers said that you know, having kids at home or other dependents was not going to be an issue. So Flex Jobs is a great data source for employees who want to have flexible jobs. And I really recommend for people who are looking for a flexible job to make sure they check it into Flex Jobs. And over half of them say that they have been more productive when they've been working at home. And 95% say that productivity has been higher or the same when they're working at home. And the reasons for this are fewer interruptions, more focused time, a quieter work environment, a much more comfortable workplace from home, and avoiding office politics. A few other data points from Flex Jobs say that about 80% are really happy that their lives are better because they're not commuting, and a good 70% say that they're enjoying the lack of commuting costs. As you can imagine, they're not, driving to work, so the cost of gas, the time saved, all of that is factored in. And a lot of the respondents also reported on this FlexJob survey that they had round trip commutes of 2 or more hours. So this is extra time found for them. So they're happier and more productive. And they also feel that they have better work-life balance because they have more time with their family and children. In fact, this is higher for men most of the time, and more time with their partner and the ability to take care of their pets. Okay. A few other data points from the FlexJob survey. 65% of the respondents want to be full-time remote employees post-pandemic. And about 30% of them would prefer a hybrid work arrangement, which means that they would be on 2 days or 3 days a week at work and the rest at home, or vice versa. And 30% of the respondents aren't waiting for the pandemic to switch. They've already requested from their employers to continue their remote work arrangements post-pandemic and have been approved. Okay, so there are some aspects with work from home that are not as great for a lot of the employees. Obviously, close to 50% are missing seeing their colleagues, and they also miss their water cooler chats, which can be replaced with a virtual water cooler talk. And some people feel lonely, especially those who live alone or do not have another partner. And a lot of the times this group is the millennials, that they're feeling lonely. Some people feel distracted as a reason for missing the office. And some are worried about the impact remote work would have on their career, and that's over 10%. And 20% of the employees are saying that they find it difficult to unplug when they work from home. As you can imagine, it's hard because the end of the day comes and a lot of people are still working. And close to 40% of the respondents said that they miss nothing about the office, and only 4% would prefer to return to the traditional office full-time. In fact, based on many surveys, a lot of the employees are saying that they really don't miss the office. In terms of mental health and flex jobs, employees who had mental health issues before the pandemic are more likely to have mental issues after. So before the pandemic, it was close to 5%. And after the pandemic, it's almost close to 20%. And the reasons for this mental health issue are not just, that they're working from home, but it is about finances. It is about current events. It is about concern over their family's health, the economy, and job responsibilities. And while only 51% of workers say that they have the emotional support when they need to work from home, they do believe that there are ways that employers can help more. And flexibility obviously is a big issue for them. And also encouraging time off and offering mental health days. We're tied for second and third. A lot of people are resistant to take time off during the pandemic, and a good almost 30% felt that increased personal time off and better health insurance were the next best ways to provide support. Now, for people in the pandemic, there have been a few issues, and one of them, I'm sure as many of you are realizing, is work from home fatigue. And some of the signs of work from home fatigue are one, avoiding work, two, declining performance, three, just feeling exhausted or apathy, and four, the inability to disconnect, which means that they're just working and working. So some of the burnout busters are that, one idea is to set office hours so that it's very visible to other people when you are on and when you are off, when you're working from home. So it's just the same way, if you think about it, when you were, at college, when the professors had, personal time and when they were available for work. Another one is to take time off. I know I mentioned this before, but a lot of employees are reluctant to take time off when they are teleworking. However, we do highly recommend it, that even if you can't go to another place, that you do make sure that you take the time off. And some other burnout busters are have a hobby. There are a lot of employees that have forgotten about their personal interests. And if work is the only thing you feel passionate about, it's really time to remember what else you like, and remember what hobbies you had before and go back to it. Another one would be to talk to your supervisor if you feel you're stuck, about how you can make your work more interesting. And finally, if you have some issues with burnout, it's best to bring them up with your coworkers. Another issue that has surfaced during working from home is Zoom fatigue or virtual meeting fatigue. And a lot of employees are finding that video calls can be very draining. And part of the reason for it is because we have to focus more intently on conversations to see what's happening. And the problem isn't helped by the fact that video calls make it easier to lose focus or to multitask. And Zoom fatigue also is because of the way we process information over video. On a video call, obviously, the only way to show that you're paying attention is to look at the camera, but that is not always the best way. If we're online with several people, we're processing visual and visual cues from people that used to be around a conference table but are not any longer. So what are some techniques to combat Zoom fatigue or virtual meeting fatigue? First of all, when you join the meeting, please take a few minutes before you click start and ground your attention. Also, take the time to greet people. I've noticed that a lot of us get on these meetings and we don't say hi, hello to each other, which is important. Also, we should reduce on-screen stimuli so there's not too much going on. And for some people, it's easier to choose speaker view, which means that you are only paying attention to who's making the presentation. And you can also block the self view, because for a lot of people that's distracting. And please do not multitask. It's very easy to multitask while you are doing virtual meetings, but try to stay away from it. And if you're doing social events by having a Zoom meeting or a virtual meeting, make sure that you can allow people to opt out. A few other techniques, and I have found this to be very helpful. One of them is to switch to phone calls or email. Sometimes a phone call just gets the same amount accomplished. And for external calls, I would say that if you're just meeting someone, it's probably best if you have a phone meeting at first, and then eventually navigate to a virtual meeting. Have an itinerary so you know what you're trying to accomplish. Sometimes it's also good to switch up your setup, which means that you would go to another part of your home to conduct the meeting. And always remind yourself that this is just, a safety place between presence and absence that we have to accommodate. Some ideas about how to boost morale and collaboration. And these are definitely your employee engagements. First, obviously it's easy to celebrate birthdays and try to replace the virtual water cooler. The water cooler with a virtual meeting. Sometimes if it's the break, just let it be like a free time when people can talk, have icebreakers. A lot of organizations have found that doing morning huddles and town halls help them a lot, so they can go over what they're going to be doing in the day. And some employers have found that having virtual happy hours, pet days, and meet my kid or some of that stuff also helps to make this a more normal setting. And obviously, there's always, those remote games, book clubs, and others that make, teleworking a lot more feasible. As far as we are concerned from Montgomery County Commuter Services, we are here to help you with free services. We can lead you through every step to put a program in place. We can definitely tailor what your company culture is into your, telework program, and we can help you overcome concerns. We can help you develop custom presentations and marketing materials for your management. We can help you consult on technology, and we definitely can help you develop policies, procedures, and agreements. We are also very well versed on training and providing evaluation. I really apologize about my voice today, but I seem to have, I don't know, it's not COVID, but some kind of throat problem. Thank you so much, and I'm going to pass it back to Michelle.
Thank you,
Michelle,
Elham.
did you want to take questions?
I'm looking to see if we've got any questions. Let's see here. Let me stop sharing my screen to start. Okay, so let's see if we've got some in the. I don't see any questions. If you have some questions, you can either do the Q&A or you can do it through chat. Here's a question, Elham. What additional resources do you have for people to prevent fatigue?
Oh, I know pandemic fatigue is big. I think that we definitely have to have, here's when I start the day, here's when I take breaks, here's when I end the day, and make sure that you're unplugging at the end of the day. A lot of people have a habit that they want to continue working. It's not recommended. And so you want to make sure that work and life do not mix up. I know it's very hard these days because some of you are probably providing childcare if your kids are not in school, but to the degree that you can separate the two spheres, it's going to make it a lot easier.
There's another question in that same vein. How often should people be taking breaks? Is there a recommended time?
Definitely. Mid-morning is a good time to take a break, to stretch, and make sure that you're not, in the same position since you started working. Mid-afternoon is also a great time. And please eat lunch away from your desk. That really helps people.
Good points. There's a question about sharing the PowerPoint. We'll be posting the webinar on our website, so you'll be able to access it. And if you know somebody who wanted to participate and wasn't able to, they can go to the website and listen to the webinar. Here's another question. How about mental health? Are there any free resources for people? Do you recommend meditation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, mindfulness and meditation are big parts of teleworking. And a lot of people have found that either early in the morning before they get into work, or after they have completed work before they step back into their family life, that they should probably take a little break and do some meditation so that they feel a little bit, like the work day is over and they're calm to deal with their home responsibilities.
Okay, thank you. Here's another question. Are Ramada Bus and Metro still running on reduced schedules? And if so, what will be the factors that allow them to get back to normal?
I'm sorry, Michelle, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, this is probably for one of us, Elham.
Right.
Are Ramada Bus and Metro still running on reduced
Okay, yeah.
schedules? And if so, what will be the factors that allow them to get back to normal?
Sandy, I believe that they are trying to move toward fuller schedules, but they are still on somewhat reduced schedules, especially on some of the particular routes. I think for Ride-On in particular, and WMATA Metro has started collecting fares on buses. They've always been collecting fares on the rail system, on the subway, but for the buses during the pandemic, for an extended period of time, it was fare free because they didn't want people to use the front doors for boarding. They felt that it would put people in too much proximity to the bus operators, and also as people were getting on, maybe in paying the fare, and there would be a clustering of people around the fare box. So they stopped charging fares. Now they've returned to charging bus fares, but Ride-On has not yet done so. We are probably going to be doing that within the next few weeks. What's holding that up is the installation of barriers, clear plastic barriers, to protect the operators from being too close to people, and also trying to have control over people clustering in the front of the bus. So in any event, I think that relatively soon, as there's more, it's a supply and demand issue, I think, primarily, as more people are beginning to return to work sites and making more trips, transit service, then the demands for transit services increase. The other issue has been that because of the social distancing I was mentioning before, that the buses have seats blocked off, and we're trying to keep people at social distancing and requiring masks and are distributing masks. But in any event, it requires more buses to transport the same number of people when you have people trying to social distance. And so that then reduces the supply of buses to do runs on other routes. So there's a lot of what do I want to say? Gradual adaptation that's going on depending on the demands on certain routes, how many passengers we're seeing, and trying to maintain the social distancing protocols. And as I said before, a lot of sanitization going in. They sanitize the buses at the end of each run, so you have some extra time that you need to do for that. So I think that in terms of what the I guess the factors that are quote unquote getting back to normal will determine that. Certainly the incidence of COVID in our population, the positive tests, the incidences of actual COVID cases, and hospitalizations and other things. Now, just recently, the county did announce that we're increasing the availability of indoor restaurant dining, I think, to 25% of capacity. I think that's because some of the numbers have been coming down. We're moving in the right direction. And so I would encourage you, the county has been doing a constant communication with regard to all of these issues with regard to COVID. And so if you go to the county's website, www.montgomerycountymd.gov, right on the main page you land on, there will be information right there. There's information to scroll. And if you have any problems, certainly contact us in terms of getting more information about the impacts there. Go ahead.
On that same vein, there's a question about whether double masks are required for riders. This person says, I heard there was new info on the double mask from CDC. I hope that is optional because one mask is already plenty, in my opinion.
Well, I've also heard that now, just within the last couple of weeks, they have started recommending double masking. There was a research study that was reported yesterday or the day before, very recently, that showed that particularly with regard to these variants that people are very concerned about with COVID. I want to pause here a second and emphasize, I am not a health professional. I am just relaying information that I've heard from other sources. So do not take any of this as gospel or, the last word. You need to do your own research, and we can provide some links if you have a problem with that. But I did hear on the national news that there was a study done recently by a reputable research organization saying that we could prevent 95% of the new cases if we all just double mask. And I can relate to the questioner's position with regard to wearing 2 masks. I have tried to do it. It depends on what you're doing at the time, as far as whether it's, where you are, what the ventilation is like, things of that nature. But it can be, I will admit, a little uncomfortable. But, if you're going to be in a situation where you might be within 6 feet or 10 feet of other people, and, you want to reduce your risk as much as possible. And so I think that what they're saying is they're not mandating it, but they are highly, highly recommending it because the research has showed that it is extremely effective.
Okay.
But at this point, I'm sorry, Michelle, at this point, no. As far as I am understanding, no, double masks are not being required. They are certainly recommended. Go ahead.
Question, if people want to set up a more permanent office, will there be some county, state, federal tax breaks for this work?
A more permanent office.
I assume it means a home office.
Home office. Well, we do have in place now some support for purchasing telework equipment, which I think is limited to laptops. I'm not certain, Michelle, do you recall? There is a program that is in place in the county that does offer employers some assistance with the purchasing of laptops for someone to begin
Yes.
teleworking.
Yes.
I don't think other equipment is included in that. The question about other county programs, not at this time. And I'm not aware of anything at the state level. The federal question is a very interesting question because, as you know, we have a new federal administration, and it will remain to be seen what new programs will be rolled out in the coming months or year that would perhaps provide some additional, tax breaks or additional other kinds of programs to assist with the costs of that. But at this time, I don't know that there are. However, if you have a home office dedicated space, there are some already existing tax benefits for that. You can take percentages of your floor space if you meet certain criteria. And just like I'm not a health professional, I'm not a tax advisor either. You need to go to your own tax person for that advice.
And if I can add to that, Sandy, in 2017, unfortunately, a lot of the breaks that people could take for having a home office were taken away.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
so
that.
please do check with your accountants. But unfortunately, since 2017, people are not able to deduct a lot of costs for having a home office.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
glad to know that. I didn't realize that happened with the tax bill that was passed then.
Especially if you're an employee.
Right.
We have one more question here. Do you foresee employers requiring their employees to be vaccinated before returning to work?
I don't know, Elham, if you're hearing anything about that. I've heard mixed things about that, and I think it depends on the employer or the nature of work
Yes.
and other policies. But go ahead, Elham.
I mean, unfortunately, as we all know, in all parts of the country, the distribution of vaccination has been an issue. So it's hard to know. Maybe after fall, we have a better chance of doing it, but not before, probably.
Okay. And we'll have our contact information at the end of the webinar. So if there's other questions that can come up that you have, please feel free to reach out to us. We do have one more, and then I'll move on to the FareShare. Can my employer require me to purchase faster internet to work from home?
A lot of employers do put the burden of having high-speed internet on the employees, and some are not paying for it. So yes, a lot of employers are doing that today. Now, whether or not it will be a practice that will be still, there after the pandemic, we don't know. But and I do want to also share that some employers are providing a stipend for for internet costs and other costs, but not all.
Okay, great. Okay, so I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about our FareShare program, and this is going to be, pretty much an overview, but if it's something you think you'd like to get more information about, we encourage you to contact us, and we could work out a plan just, individualized for each employer. But basically, FareShare is it's a cost-effective way to help employees commute. And again, we're talking about when we're getting to the point where people are using transit, van pooling, and getting back into the workplace. It's also a good tool to attract and retain employees. It's a new employee benefit at a low cost to the employers because the county is going to be subsidizing it. And it is, supports a commitment to a greener environment, and it saves money on the employees' taxes. So it's a matching fund for employers to provide a transit or van pool benefit to the employees. So how it works is the federal, right now, the benefit max is $270 a month. So Montgomery County, if you're going to start a new program, will subsidize it up to 80%, as long as the employer is putting in at least $25 a month. So we have an example here of an employer offers a benefit to their employees of $125 a month. The county will reimburse 80% of that, or $100. And so the net payment by the employer is only $25 a month. So you can see the employee gets a bigger benefit and the actual cost of the employer is smaller. This is meant to be a sort of seed money program. In other words, to get your benefit up and running, give you an opportunity to look at your budget and figure out how many employees are going to take advantage of it, what it's actually going to cost over, the next couple of years. And it kind of takes away some of the concerns about offering it and then having, an incredible cost that you didn't anticipate. So it does give you an opportunity to plan for this in the future, because this is a temporary subsidy by the county. And it is a cost reimbursement program. So you would set up the program through Smart Benefits to administer your transit subsidy program. You would pay them, and then you would submit an invoice to the county for reimbursement, and you'd register in our vendor registration system. So that's how it would work. Is you can do it monthly or quarterly, depending on how many employees you have using the program. We're flexible as far as that goes, but it is a cost reimbursement. As I said, the maximum benefit right now is $270 a month. There's also a Maryland commuter tax credit program of up to $100 a month. So you can combine both of those. One does not exclude the other. And it could, again, increase or decrease your actual costs. So to find out more, please feel free to contact us. Again, we'd like to work with you individually to look at what your situation is. If you have a program that you're operating right now, and let's say you're looking to maybe increase the amount that you are offering to the employees, that is something we want to work with you on, and we can subsidize the increase as well. So let me go back to this and see if we have any questions about that.
Michelle, I just wanted to note or emphasize the point you were making, that we have some flexibility in structuring this program. We used to have a lot less. And so again, if employers are interested and they have, an idea of an approach that they'd like to take, please contact us and we will be happy to work with you.
Any questions about that, or any additional questions for Elham or any of us about the telework?
And I want to just mention, I did put into the chat the link to that Greater Washington Partnership study for anyone who wanted to get more information on that. The details, I just really, there's a lot more really interesting information in there. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that.
And again, I want to reiterate too, for if you are looking to maybe formalize your telework program, I know a lot of companies had to do everything kind of on the fly at a moment's notice. So if you're looking to formalize it, or maybe evaluate it to see how it's working for you, or come up with some different reporting systems, again, the county does offer those services for free through Elham. So please, again, reach out to us and we can help you put a program together that's going to work the best for you. And again, individualized for your particular needs.
Right.
I promise you, I won't always sound like this. And the good thing is that you won't be next to me, so I'm not contagious.
That's true. That's one of the other benefits of these distant meetings.
Yes.
And maybe we will all end up after COVID being much healthier.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Okay, well, I guess we're going to wrap it up. We're just about on time here. So I want to thank everybody for participating. Thank you, Elham. Thank you, Sandy. And
we have one more question.
oh.
No, it's just a comment that it was good information. Thank you for that comment.
Great. Okay, well, everybody,
All right.
enjoy, and don't forget the Zoom fatigue busters.
Yeah. Disconnect.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
everybody. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.